So we'll conduct a vertical envelopment of objective Pegasus. That's here. Friendly forces of raid. So we have a friendly infantry battalion that's going to attack through this town of Hapra with the ultimate goal of reaching Masta. We have a armored battalion that's going to attack. We'll pass them at objective Pegasus. They'll establish a screen, and then they'll contribute to the attack on Masta. But again, for our portion today, we're focused strictly on objective Pegasus. 4 objectives on Pegasus: a barracks facility, a comms center, a maintenance facility, and then a battalion, an enemy battalion headquarters. We want to seize all of those facilities and prepare to pass that armored battalion. We're not going to actually pass them in game. I'm not trying to make it that complicated. And then for our forces specifically, our ground forces and our air assault task force are arrayed at PZ Pegasus. And then we have a TAC element, and all of our drones are located just north of the Flet, a few kilometers behind the lines. For Blue 4 assets for aviation, we have 5 UH-60s, 2 H-64s, and 2 CH-47s. The Chinooks are scripted. On call, they will land 2 ground assault vehicles, 2 Jeeps in, whenever we call that in. For drones, we got a Spurver recon drone that's like your fixed wing kind of reconnaissance drone, and then we have 5 swing blades. For fires, we have 6 M109 Paladins, 24 HE, 4 smoke, and then I gave them the SATARM HEs as well to make life easier for ourselves. And then we also have 6 airstrikes. So I gave us enough stuff to be effective. And then for our ground forces, we got 3 infantry platoons and then 2 infantry assault vehicles. The infantry platoons are 3 assault squads and 1 weapon squad each. Pretty standard. This is what it looks like on the objective right now. So we ran a notional war game 2 weeks ago that simulated the aerial reconnaissance. In the north, we have the barracks facility. Our birds were able to do a flyby, unable to really see everything on that objective. We know there's at least 1 man pad, a truck-mounted man pad there, some infantry, and then another truck of some sort. For the comm center, we did get a good look. The comm center is in the middle here. At least 1 gun truck, some infantry patrolling, some stationary infantry, a ZSU 23-4, and 2 logistics vehicles on that objective. For the headquarters in the west, 12 infantry, both patrolling and stationary. You have multiple logistics trucks, some Jeeps around the headquarters, what we believe is the headquarters in this building here. And then you have gun trucks defending, as well as a vehicle-mounted man pad. And then in the south, at the maintenance facility, again, the bird had a rough time on this pass. Saw some infantry, and then 2 trucks, not sure if they're armed or logistics type trucks, defending the maintenance facility. Birds attempted to make another pass, a 5th pass, but were unable to achieve that. They could not locate the QRF that is south of the objective. QRF, we think, is a company of enemy armor consisting of BTR-82s with a 30 millimeter cannon on it. Just some things to consider for each of our staff roles. And again, this does not have to be strictly military-like. Everyone has a day job, I understand. But for the commander thinking through the main effort, where we want to accomplish the mission, what's the level of risk that we're willing to accept, and then what decision points that the commander has. And I know Reverend already laid out a few. For S2, what do we think the enemy's going to do, especially after we land? How will the enemy array their air defense assets? And I think the air recon already laid a bunch of that out. What's their effective range? Where do we think we're going to make contact with the enemy, both for air defense and then for ground? Where do we think they're going to position their QRF? And what do we think the trigger will be to launch that QRF? And then I'll tell you, I didn't want to get crazy with weather, so the weather is just going to be pretty generic for most of this. It'll be clear and sunny. For the ops officer, how do we want to sequence the events from launch to finally securing the airfield? What do we think our landing zones are? What do we think the triggers are to call the alternate landing zones? How do we synchronize between you and the FSO, the suppression of air defense and the arrival of the helicopters? And then most importantly, how do we communicate all of this to everyone? Like, how do we communicate the triggers, and how do we keep this synchronized during the event? For our FSO, pretty simple. Let's kill some shit, or at least suppress some shit. What do we think the targets are that we need to be suppressed, and what targets need to be destroyed before helicopters arrive? How do we support the ground assault force as they arrive at the airfield? How do we deconflict the gun target line, i.e. where the artillery is shooting from, with where the helicopters are going to land or where they're approaching from? And then what are the procedures for calling for fire if we have if the ground element needs to call for fire from you? And then finally, for the aviation officer, what are our ingress and egress routes? Again, tied to gun target line, and how do we deconflict that? How do you coordinate with the fire support officer to clear paths? What's our load plan for ground forces? And then what's the overall communication plan? And what are our emergency procedures for a downed aircraft? And then just to keep us on track, the phases of the air assault. By doctrine, there's 5 phases: the planning, the staging element, the loading, the assault, and then the reorganization and consolidation. Again, this is all just a framework for us to consider. It's a collaborative effort in planning. An example, right? I posted this in the Baltic Lightning chat, but an example of what it looks like. This is in minutes, which is not normal but considering, it's a Steel Beast scenario, what you see is 3 hours right now, but a way we can do it to deconflict things and make sure we are synchronized. It's a way. It's another way of doing it, sort of an execution matrix by phase. So it talks triggers and actions. So obviously, if for something to happen, there needs to be a trigger that causes that thing to happen. This is a way for us to just write those triggers out and write the associated action out with it. And then another way, this is called an ops schedule. And we use a series of pro words, right? If you've ever watched Black Hawk Down, you've heard the term Irene. Irene was an ops sched, was probably a pro word to launch the aircraft, I believe, right? You do something like this. The great thing about this, it's in sequence. So from start to finish in alphabetical order, you'll have pro words. In this case, it's female names from A to Z tied to an action. And then you can also tie that to a time or date time group. Just looking at our staff here: Commander Revenant, Ops Officer Los, Intel Officer Figmo, Fire Support Officer Beardy, Aviation Officer Magic, Infantry Commander Ben, Subordinate Platoon Leader Rook, and then I'm kind of free floating. I'm signed up as a drone operator because we'll need those for the swing blades and the spurver. So that's all I got for my my admin remarks. I know that went a little long, but are there any questions on the overall structure of the scenario?
I got a question. Well, this is less about the structure, but what is the desired end state as to the condition of the airfield after we've taken it? Like, are they going to use it?
We'd like to use it. Yeah, absolutely. So end state: friendly forces control the objective. We're prepared to pass the incoming armored company. Enemy unable to interfere with any of that operations, then minimal destruction to the airfield infrastructure. So not only do we want to use it, but we want to be able to hand it off to host nation forces when we're done. But like, this is part of the discussion with Revenant and the risk he's willing to assume, right? It's a good question, though. We can't just go in and fucking nuke it,
Did we ever task out the other subordinate platoon leaders? I know I'm one of them, but isn't there 3? Go back to the Blue Force slide. Yeah, is the 3rd Infantry Platoon just going to be scripted or abstracted, or is somebody filling that role?
So I just assumed Ben would move all of them around.
Okay.
Just give it waypoints and whatever. I'm trying to keep the infantry combat to a minimum. It's more closely like, hey, how well did we synchronize this? Did we land the infantry 4 kilometers away, or did we land them in a timely fashion to get them onto their objective as quick as possible?
The 24 by HE, etc. for the Paladins, is that per gun or is that total?
Yeah, it's per gun.
Mm-hmm. Cool. You can't do 140.
Yeah, I'm giving
like I can't level the field.
Yeah. Let's not nuke every inch of the airfield, but I didn't want to make this like highly challenging.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The goal here is to try to minimize the amount of call for fires we have during the mission. The goal is to synchronize, hey, we planned this pre-plotted target, and at certain time we called it and it landed when we needed it to land, versus hey, I just saw an infantry fucking team, let's fucking nuke them with 24 HE rounds.
That makes sense. I've got a whole bunch of questions about fires, but they can wait till later because I think context will matter more.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll turn it over to Revenant and we'll get started.
Intelligence to be close to, if not on the road. Once that's confirmed, we will find a checkpoint which they have to pass through, and we'll put pre-planned fires in there and also alert the Apaches as to the location of the enemy so that they can begin to maneuver to destroy the QRF at their leisure.
Okay. Got intel and fires. Maneuver. Talk me through what you're doing.
Hey, it's Alpha. Yep, so we're all set to load up. First lift is the first 2 platoons plus the company HQ with the 5 helis. Second lift will just be the 3rd platoon. We're moving out from LZ1 or LZ X-ray towards our first positions. We're not expecting to do that until the enemy air defences have all been neutralised. Then we're attacking first into the maintenance, then the HQ, and then the barracks. If it's deemed that the barracks has any survivors, we'll then attack towards barracks. And our main objective is the HQ in order to set up a defence for the expected QRF.
All right. For lifting off, what's your trigger to do that?
Critical events are key calls.
Okay. Are you prepared to copy?
Good. Copy.
Okay. In event 1 is the ISR phase, which includes the launching of the drones and the swing blades, the movement to the the reconnaissance positions, D1, D2, and no, D1, and the surveillance of the field, including, and then calling out the identification of the targets. And the targets are listed on the right-hand side, the finding, the proposed recce plan. So once we've found all the critical targets, which probably is the, priority is the gun dish, the man pads, the QRF, and the strongholds. That's the ISR, and then we're also confirming that the barracks, the maintenance facility, the comms, and the areas that we think there's troops at, if we see troops there. Once FIG reports stuff has either been found or most of it has been found, we determine that event 1 is satisfied. Event 2 is fires ready. So there's some period of time where Ben is setting his TRPs and getting his fire missions ready. Event 3, when fires are ready is reported. Event 3, now that's the load and lift of the ground force. We don't need to necessarily know what helicopter got loaded or lifted, but I mean, confirm once the force takes off, and it is to move. It is not to pass 2 Alpha until we're confirmed that the targets have been engaged and destroyed. No, targets have been engaged. Event 4 is the fires on the target. And event 5 is confirmation from ISR that the targets have been destroyed. Event 6 is landing X-ray if conditions are set at the airfield. So that's where we crossed. Actually, we start 2A, which is, excuse me, let me go back a little bit. Event 4, which is engaged target, will also make a call to the air guys so they know that they can proceed past 2 Alpha and continue on their merry way. Event 5 is confirming destruction of targets. Event 6 is the call to land the X-ray. The conditions are set. We got into a little discussion. What if the targets are not confirmed destroyed? I just wrote these as event 6A and 6B. 6A and 6B. 6A is we re-engage and reconfirm that we've hit the targets and destroyed them, and then 6B is we land, then call the force in. And I think at that point, Rev will let us know whether he's comfortable going to the X-ray or whether we're going to LZ1. Event 7, confirming the QRF. So once the ISR has confirmed that the targets on the airfield is destroyed. Event 7 is going to be they're going to go and find the QRF. Event 8, kill the QRF with fires and or AH-64s and or.
Yeah, so Alpha 2 is clearing the comms array, then they're moving to support this in the Objective 2. Alpha 3 will be on the second lift. They're either going to follow and support Alpha 1 if they get stalled, move into Alpha 2, or excuse me, Objective 2. Or in the event there's still activity at the barracks and we can't kill that with fires, we'll send Alpha 3 to that. I would prefer not to use Alpha 3 on the barracks, though, if we can kill everything with fires first.
All right, so APOC, let's do it like this. Event 9 is maneuver and seizure of Objective 1, in the comms array. And then Event 10 is maneuver and seizure on Objective 2. That way, that'll be clear. So, and then finally, Event 11 is report that these are seized. Report that back up. And then 12 is confirm everybody's in hasty defense.
Yep, got it. And so Los, you own these, and what I'd ask is throughout, when we are going through these, as we complete these critical events, just put a line through it so everybody can quickly see. But as the S3, you own the events, so I think they're good. Last thing I'd ask for the team, we have some pretty critical events like launching when do we launch 64s, when do we launch the 60s, when do we launch the 47s. This is an S3 realm again, but I'd ask, let's deliberately list out what are the conditions that need to be set to do those things. And if there's other triggers out there that I don't have listed here on the triggers, let's list them out. But really, this is for max efficiency so that we don't have to ask Reverend. We don't have to ask the commander every time there's a decision to be made. Like, we just do these things as a staff. So, okay. Last trigger that I have listed is what's the conditions to launch the 64s? And we haven't really identified where they're going exactly. Let's identify what's the criteria to launch them, and then let's identify an attack by fire position for them.
Criteria for launch, I thought, was they are close escort of the 60s.
Yeah, I think just based on where we're likely determining where the QRF is, there's really two locations, either NAI 5 in the east or Box 1 in the west. I think between both of those, we know generally where they're going to move through to reach Objective Pegasus. So where do we want to establish our engagement area to actually kill that QRF? And then where are we putting those AH-64s so they're actually in a position to do it? Yeah, I mean, I want to lift them at the same time as the 64s. Order of march is the AH-64s followed by the 60s.
Okay, no change then. All right.
Yeah, I mean, from the airfield, the edge of the southern edge of the airfield, the 64s can have a good view of the southern approach of the QRF, and also it be in a position to support any crazy shit that happens at the airfield. And if Fig's at his position, he's got a good view of you could actually add a little more altitude and look right down the main highway from the other QRF location.
Bob, I would keep those guys on hold fire until you're ready to focus them on something, because they'll just start slinging hellfires everywhere. Okay, I think we got a plan together, and I think we've identified conditions and key calls. I think right now I would recommend, if there's nothing else on the table and the commander doesn't have any other comments, that we run a dry rehearsal here.